Chapter 1: The Fall That Shattered Everything. The rooftop shimmered with fairy lights, the city stretching behind like a jewel-studded blanket. High-profile guests milled around in tailored suits and shimmering gowns, their laughter clinking louder than the champagne glasses in their hands. A live string quartet played a smooth jazz arrangement, but Kaiden barely heard it over the pounding of his own heart. He smoothed the front of his black dress shirt for the 10th time that evening. The fabric still crinkled from the rushed taxi ride here. He hated these corporate events, not because he didn't appreciate elegance, but because he always felt like an imposter among power-hungry executives and plastic smiles. Still, he'd organized the entire thing down to the last hors d'oeuvre, and tonight was supposed to be a win. Kaiden's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for a familiar face. Milo should have arrived by now. His boyfriend, now possibly ex, had disappeared halfway through the night, saying something about checking on the entertainment schedule. Kaiden didn't think much of it at first. He'd learned not to hover. Milo hated being smothered. Still, it was going on 30 minutes, and his gut was tightening with each passing second. Then he saw it, a sliver of hallway between the rooftop bar and the staff offices, flanked by tall glass doors. Kaiden's feet moved before his brain caught up. He turned the corner quietly, gripping the edge of the wall, and froze. Milo, pressed against the glass wall, hands tangled in someone else's hair. The other man, Jasper, Kaiden's so-called best friend, moaned into Milo's mouth like he'd been waiting all night to be kissed. Kaiden's breath left him in a silent gasp. He didn't make a sound, just stood there, heart imploding behind his ribs. The ice-cold panic flooded him in slow waves. First disbelief, then devastation, then pure, white-hot humiliation. He stepped back too quickly. The sound of his shoe scuffing against the marble echoed. Milo broke the kiss. His gaze landed on Kaiden, and widened. Jasper turned, already sneering. "Shit," he muttered. Kaiden didn't wait to hear whatever lie was about to fall from Milo's mouth. He turned on his heel and walked straight back into the party. The music swelled around him again, the lights too bright, the air too thin. He barely noticed the eyes on him. All he could hear was the roaring in his ears. But Lucas Val noticed. From the edge of the balcony, Lucas stood with a tumbler of bourbon in hand, watching everything with unreadable eyes. He had the presence of a man who always knew more than he let on. His sharp jawline and neatly trimmed dark hair made him look like he stepped out of a designer magazine, but it was the eyes. Cool, storm gray, always calculating, that made people nervous. He watched Kaiden move across the rooftop with stiff shoulders and a trembling mouth, and for a reason he couldn't articulate, his grip on the glass tightened. The boy was walking like the ground might open beneath him at any second. When Kaiden passed the podium by the stage, he paused. People were still chatting, laughing, celebrating his event. He walked up to the mic, tapped it. Silence fell like a dropped plate. "Hi," Kaiden said, voice even but dangerously tight. "I just wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I worked hard on this event." He smiled faintly, eyes flicking toward Milo, who had just slunk back into the crowd. "Also," Kaiden continued, "I won't be back at Vale Corp on Monday, or any day after that. So if you need someone to coordinate your chaos, call Jasper. He seems very free these days." Gasps. Milo paled. Kaiden dropped the mic. Literally. Then walked off the stage. Lucas didn't stop him, though he could have. He didn't even blink. But his eyes followed Kaiden's every step. Kaiden didn't cry until he reached the apartment. He slammed the door shut, yanked off his shoes, and let himself collapse onto the couch. His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't even unzip his bag, so he gave up and curled into himself, fists pressed to his mouth to hold back the sobs. His phone lit up over and over with messages. From Milo, "I didn't mean for you to see that. You're overreacting. Come on, let's talk." And from Jasper, "You were always too clingy for him anyway." Kaiden screamed into a pillow until his throat hurt. He didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling until the sky lightened. Then, with a pounding heart and an empty stomach, he grabbed the one small suitcase he'd managed to fill and made his way to Vale Corp for the last time. The lobby was empty this early. The air smelled like citrus and cold ambition. Kaiden avoided the elevator, choosing the stairs up to HR. He didn't want to see anyone. Just hand in his badge, officially quit, and vanish from this chapter of his life forever. But fate, apparently, wasn't done humiliating him yet. As he stepped into the hallway, a voice behind him spoke. "You look like hell." Kaiden turned. Slowly. Lucas Vale stood by the glass wall of his corner office, dressed in black slacks and an open-colored gray shirt. He was holding a cup of coffee, one eyebrow arched with the kind of calm detachment that made Kaiden bristle. "Thanks," Kaiden muttered, trying to brush past him. "Why are you here?" Lucas asked, stepping slightly into his path. Not threatening, but blocking, nonetheless. "Returning my badge. Officially quitting. I'm sure you're thrilled." Lucas tilted his head, studying him. "I saw what happened last night," he said. Kaiden blinked. "Then I guess you know why I'm done." "You should have broken his nose," Lucas said. Kaiden stared at him. "Or his friends." Lucas shrugged. "Both, if time allowed." A startled laugh escaped Kaiden. "Just a small one. You sound disappointed I didn't." "I am." Something in Lucas's tone made Kaiden pause. It wasn't mockery. It was something else. Something dark and almost possessive. Lucas leaned against the doorframe, his gaze skimming Kaiden from head to toe. "Where are you going now?" Kaiden hesitated. "Nowhere yet." Lucas raised an eyebrow. Kaiden flushed. "I'll figure something out." "Stay at my place," Lucas said casually. "Until you do." Kaiden blinked. "Excuse me?" "My penthouse. You can have the guest suite. It's not like I use it." Kaiden squinted at him. "Why would you even offer that?" Lucas's lips curved into a smirk. "Because I don't like watching good people get crushed like bugs under designer shoes." "That's not a reason." "Isn't it?" Lucas's tone dropped lower. "Come on, Kaiden. You need a place. I have one. Don't be stubborn." "I don't want charity." Lucas pushed off the frame and stepped closer. His scent, clean, expensive, faintly mint, curled into Kaiden's nose. "This isn't charity," Lucas said, voice barely above a whisper. "I just don't like seeing beautiful things thrown away." Kaiden swallowed. Hard. He wasn't sure what startled him more, the words or the way Lucas said them, like he meant it. Like Kaiden wasn't a mess with nothing left but something worth salvaging. He didn't know why, but his mouth said, "Okay." And Lucas's smile? It wasn't kind. It was dangerous, and it was just the beginning. Chapter 2. The apartment with one bed and too many walls. Kaiden stood in the middle of Lucas Vale's penthouse and had no idea what to do with his hands. The space looked like it had been designed by a very expensive robot. Glass, black steel, matte stone, and soft lighting that seemed to glow from nowhere. There wasn't a single speck of dust or a misplaced object. The furniture was all clean lines and cold surfaces, like it belonged in an art museum, not a home. Even the couch looked like it might judge you for sitting on it wrong. And yet, there were signs of life. A leather jacket flung carelessly over the back of a dining chair. A half-full espresso cup on the coffee table. A long scratch on the hardwood floor that looked like it had a story. Kaiden hovered near the entrance, his small duffel bag clutched in one hand. Lucas tossed his keys on the counter and looked over his shoulder. "You can breathe, you know." Kaiden blinked. "Right, yeah. Breathing. Totally doing that." Lucas smirked, unbuttoning his sleeves as he moved toward the kitchen. "I'll give you the tour. Don't worry, the place isn't that big." That was a lie. The penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that spanned the entire city skyline, a walk-in wine cellar Kaiden was afraid to look directly at, and a bedroom that was roughly the size of his old apartment. And the bathroom? The bathroom had a fireplace. "This is the guest room," right, Lucas said, opening a sleek door to reveal a minimalist space with a large bed, a window seat, and a wall-mounted screen. Kaiden suspected was smarter than he was. "Closet's empty. Sheets are clean. You'll find the thermostat by the bed if you get cold." Kaiden stepped inside and ran his fingers along the edge of the desk. "This is really nice. You didn't have to." "I know," Lucas said. "But I wanted to." Kaiden turned, startled by the softness in his voice. Lucas's expression was unreadable. His arms crossed, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His collar was still open from the office, exposing a hint of toned chest and a faint scar near his collarbone. "Thank you," Kaiden said quietly. Lucas nodded once. "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you accidentally talk to the fridge and it orders 6 cases of wine." Kaiden laughed and relaxed just a little. The next morning, Kaiden decided to make breakfast as a thank you. He was halfway through scrambling eggs and toasting sourdough when he opened what he thought was the spice drawer and set off the security alarm. A shrieking siren blared through the penthouse, lights flashing blue. Kaiden yelped and dropped the spatula. Somewhere in the ceiling, a robotic voice said, "Unauthorized access detected." Lucas stumbled out of his bedroom in nothing but a pair of black pajama pants. Hair tousled, eyes narrowed. "What the hell did you do?" Kaiden froze. "I was looking for Pepper." "You opened the panic drawer?" "There's a panic drawer?" Lucas sighed and pressed his thumb to a hidden panel. The alarm stopped. Silence fell. Kaiden stood sheepishly, egg batter splattered on his shirt, toast smoking in the background. Lucas blinked, then laughed, a low, husky sound that filled the room like velvet. "You," he said, walking over and plucking the spatula from the floor, "are the most dangerous person I've ever let into my home." Kaiden groaned and buried his face in his hands. Lucas made coffee. They ate breakfast in the kitchen together, Lucas barefoot and smirking, Kaiden flushed and muttering apologies between bites. The days fell into an odd rhythm after that. Kaiden applied for jobs in the morning and spent the afternoons tidying the apartment, doing laundry, and organizing the fridge Lucas never touched. It turned out Lucas had a cleaning staff on retainer, but the man hadn't let them come since Kaiden moved in. "They'll just get in your way," he said with a shrug. He came home late most nights, shoulders tight from meetings, tie loosened, and mood unrateable. But whenever he saw Kaiden, usually barefoot in the kitchen, hair messy, sleeves rolled up, he always paused. Then he'd smile, slow and dangerous. "You're still here." Kaiden would roll his eyes, but secretly, his heart would stutter. Lucas brought him things. Random things. A pair of socks with dinosaurs, a tin of matcha cookies, a silk robe from a client gift basket that Kaiden refused to wear because it barely covered his thighs. Once, he came home with a set of handmade recipe cards. "Found them at some vendor thing," he said casually. Kaiden traced the embossed edges with trembling fingers. "These are really nice." Lucas didn't look at him when he said, "So are you." They never talked about what Kaiden had lost. But sometimes, Lucas would find him on the balcony, staring out at the city with empty eyes. Those were the nights Lucas sat beside him, close but never touching. "You should sleep," he'd murmur. "Can't," Kaiden would whisper back. "Not yet." Lucas never pushed. He just stayed until Kaiden nodded off. One night, Kaiden jolted awake in the guest bed, chest heaving. The nightmare had clawed through his throat, ripped from the remnants of betrayal and shame. He pressed his hand to his heart and choked down the sob threatening to escape. A soft knock came at the door. Lucas stepped inside, shirtless and barefoot, eyes softer than Kaiden had ever seen. Kaiden didn't speak. Neither did Lucas. He crossed the room in 2 steps, knelt beside the bed and held out his hand. Kaiden stared at it, then took it. Lucas pulled him up, silently led him down the hallway and into the master bedroom. The bed was huge, draped in charcoal gray sheets. Lucas pulled back the covers and slid in without a word. Kaiden followed, hesitating only a moment before curling against him. Lucas wrapped an arm around Kaiden's waist, pulling him close. "Just to calm you down," his actions said. But his hand on Kaiden's back was anything but detached. It moved in slow, comforting circles. His chest was warm and solid. His breath whispered across the back of Kaiden's neck. Kaiden relaxed slowly, heart still fluttering. Lucas never tried anything, but Kaiden felt every inch of tension between them like a live wire. He slept, heavily, and when he woke up, Lucas was still there. The next morning, Kaiden stood in the kitchen making tea, still barefoot, hair uncombed, cheeks flushed from memories he hadn't even dared speak aloud. Lucas walked in wearing only sweatpants and a smirk. Kaiden's hand trembled slightly on the mug. Lucas leaned against the counter. "Sleep okay?" Kaiden nodded. "Nightmares gone?" "For now." Lucas smiled, but his gaze was too intense. "I told you, you're safe here." Kaiden swallowed. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Kaiden turned away, heart pounding. He hated how much he liked the way Lucas made him feel. Wanted. Seen. Seen. He sipped his tea, then turned around slowly. "You don't even like me," he said, half joking, half defensive. Lucas moved across the kitchen with quiet steps and stopped directly in front of him. Kaiden tilted his head up to meet his eyes. "No," Lucas said, voice low and lethal with sincerity. "I'm completely obsessed with you." Kaiden's breath caught. The mug slipped from his hand and clattered into the sink. Lucas didn't flinch. He just kept looking at him, like Kaiden was the only thing in the room worth seeing. Chapter 3. Terms and conditions may apply. Lucas's office was exactly what Kaiden expected. Sleek, intimidating, and so polished it practically whispered, "Don't touch anything unless you're a billionaire." The skyline stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls, the sunlight cutting clean lines across dark floors and monochrome furniture. Kaiden shifted uncomfortably in the chair across from Lucas's imposing desk, clutching the folder Lucas had handed him just minutes before. "You want me to work for you?" Kaiden asked, blinking. Lucas didn't look up from the contract he was annotating. "Not exactly." Kaiden frowned. "That's what the job offer says." "I want you to work with me," Lucas corrected, setting down his pen. He leaned back in his chair, rolling his sleeves up with deliberate slowness. "Personal assistant, flexible hours, full benefits, private workspace, and the occasional obligation to endure charity galas on my arm." Kaiden narrowed his eyes. "So, to be clear, you want me to follow you around, carry your coffee, manage your calendar, and pretend you're not a terrifying perfectionist?" Lucas's mouth curved. "Essentially. But I'll pay you generously to pretend I'm charming." "You're not." "That's where the salary comes in," Kaiden groaned, tossing the folder onto the desk. "Why me?" Lucas folded his hands and said, very simply, "Because I want to keep you close." Kaiden's breath caught. "You've been looking for work," Lucas added. "You've organized high-level events before. You've handled crises better than most interns we've hired. And more importantly, I trust you not to bore me." Kaiden stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. "I'm going to regret this." "I hope so," Lucas said, rising smoothly to his feet. "Now come on. We're late for a very boring party." The gala was held at the Metropolitan Heritage Hall, a place so obscenely grand that Kaiden felt like he should apologize to the marble floors for stepping on them. Waiters glided past with champagne, the chandelier overhead sparkled like a crystal sea creature, and the elite of the city air-kissed and backstabbed in glittering harmony. Lucas arrived in a charcoal black tux that looked like it had been stitched directly onto his body. He didn't even bother with a tie, his shirt open just enough to hint at the strength of his chest. Kaiden stood beside him in a fitted navy suit Lucas had accidentally sent to the penthouse with a note. "Don't argue. Wear it." Kaiden hadn't argued. He felt like a deer in traffic as they entered the main ballroom. Heads turned. Lucas placed a hand, light but unmistakable, on the small of Kaiden's back. "Smile," he murmured. "You're the only thing keeping me from torching this entire event." Kaiden forced a grin. "That's comforting." They wove through the crowd, Kaiden catching snippets of conversations. "Is that Vale's new PA?" "He's young. Pretty. Too pretty for paperwork." Lucas didn't care. He introduced Kaiden to senators, CEOs, museum curators. Each time his arm stayed at Kaiden's back. Each time his tone sharpened just a little when someone stared too long. "Kaiden, this is Mayor Han." "Mayor, this is Kaiden. The only reason I haven't burned this city to the ground this quarter." Kaiden flushed. "He's joking." "No, I'm not." Kaiden excused himself to breathe for a minute and found sanctuary near the dessert table. That's when Danny arrived. Kaiden's cousin was 5 feet and 2 inches of divine fury in a pantsuit sharper than most people's tongues. Her black hair was slicked into a low bun, her lipstick was war paint, and her glare could melt glass. "You didn't tell me you were working for him." Kaiden winced. "Hi, Danny." She crossed her arms. "Kaiden, darling, sweet child, what the actual hell? It's a long story. I have time and knives." Kaiden groaned. "Please behave." Danny looked past him, toward Lucas, who was now talking to a board member with a fake smile that screamed, "Die slowly." She squinted. "He's hot." Kaiden blinked. "What?" "I said he's hot. Still don't trust him, though. If he breaks your heart, I break his kneecaps." Kaiden choked on a canapé. "You've known him for 10 seconds. Long enough." Before Kaiden could respond, a warm voice cut in. "Ah, you must be Danny." They turned to find Mr. Wong, Lucas's driver, holding a tray of drinks. He looked like everyone's favorite grandpa, silver hair, crinkled eyes, and a smile that felt like home. "I've heard about you," Mr. Wong said with a twinkle. "Kaiden talks about you a lot." Danny softened, just a little. "Depends what he said. All good things. Mostly threats." Danny smiled, then took a drink. "I like you." "I get that a lot." Sophie appeared shortly after, towering in red heels and holding a champagne flute like a dagger. "God, this place is a graveyard of sincerity, and you," she pointed at Kaiden, "are too adorable to be stuck with him." Kaiden blinked. "With who?" "Lucas. That emotionally constipated iceberg you call a boss. He's not. Relax, Sophie drawled. I ship it. He needs someone who doesn't flinch when he glowers. Kaiden shook his head, cheeks hot. Hours later, Lucas finally tugged Kaiden away from the crowd and out into the waiting limo. The privacy glass slid up automatically, and Lucas loosened his collar with a long exhale. I hate these things, he muttered. Kaiden laughed softly. You seem charming. That's the worst part. They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights casting faint shadows across Lucas's sharp features. Then Lucas said, You were incredible tonight. Kaiden looked up. Me? You kept your composure, talked to people who think kindness is a commodity, handled Sophie and Danny without collapsing. That's impressive. Kaiden blinked, suddenly flustered. Lucas reached over and took his hand, gently, carefully. Kaiden froze. Lucas lifted his hand and pressed a kiss to his knuckles. Kaiden's breath caught. You don't have to thank me, he whispered. I'm not thanking you, Lucas said. I'm reminding you you're mine. Kaiden pulled his hand back suddenly, heart thundering. Don't say stuff like that. Why not? Because I'm still figuring this out. And you're too much sometimes. Too intense. Lucas looked at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time, softened completely. He leaned back, hands raised in surrender. Okay. Kaiden's eyes widened. No fight? He asked, almost nervously. Lucas's lips tilted into something bittersweet. I told you. I'll wait. He leaned closer, just a breath apart. His voice dropped, low and velvet smooth, but not patiently. Kaiden's heart did something traitorous. When they arrived back at the penthouse, Lucas opened the door for him, ever the gentleman. Kaiden muttered a shy goodnight and ducked into the guest room before he could do something stupid. Inside, he pressed his back to the door, then touched his lips. He'd never even kissed him. And yet his heart was racing more than it ever had before. Chapter 4. One night, one room, one lie too many. The retreat was supposed to be for corporate wellness and team bonding, but Kaiden knew a forced vacation when he saw one. Still, it was hard to argue with an all-expenses-paid getaway to a 5-star wellness resort tucked in the mountains. Lavender gardens, infinity pools, private hot springs, Vale Corp didn't do anything halfway. Unfortunately, neither did fate. We're out of doubles. The front desk attendant said sweetly as she clicked through her screen. But not to worry. Mr. Vale and Mr. Rivera, we've upgraded you both to the executive suite. Kaiden blinked. Suite? As in? One bed, Lucas said behind him, voice already curling with amusement. Kaiden spun on his heel. Did you plan this? Lucas smirked. Not this time. The suite was absurd. High vaulted ceilings, silk-draped windows, a private balcony overlooking the lake, and a bed the size of a small country. The scent of eucalyptus and cedarwood filled the air, subtle and expensive. Kaiden stood by the door for a full minute. This is a mistake, he muttered. Lucas tossed his overnight bag on the bed. Unbothered. A comfortable one. You're enjoying this. I enjoy everything you suffer through. Kaiden rolled his eyes and moved to the wardrobe where 2 resort robes hung waiting. His fingers brushed the fabric, soft as clouds. He grabbed one and disappeared into the bathroom. When he returned, Lucas was lounging on the bed, already in his robe, chest partially exposed, ankles crossed, reading a spa menu like it contained government secrets. Kaiden froze. He wasn't prepared for that. Lucas glanced up, then slowly set the menu aside. His eyes raked down Kaiden's body, taking in the robe, the flushed cheeks, the bare legs. You look, he paused, edible. Don't, Kaiden warned, backing toward the minibar. I will throw this cucumber water at you. I'll enjoy it. Later that afternoon, they were booked for a couple's massage, thanks to Sophie's brilliant idea of assigning pairs from a compatibility draw. Kaiden suspected rigging. Sophie denied nothing. The massage room was warm and dimly lit, lavender and sandalwood in the air. They laid side by side, shirts off, towels across their hips. Kaiden tried to relax. Really. But it was impossible when Lucas was moaning softly beside him every time the masseuse pressed down on his shoulders. You're doing that on purpose, Kaiden hissed. Doing what? Lucas asked, eyes closed. You sound like that. Lucas cracked one eye open. Like what? You know, Lucas grinned lazily. You mean like I'm imagining your hands instead? Kaiden sputtered. You're... Ah! The masseuse stifled a smile. Kaiden turned red from head to toe. Back in the suite, the teasing didn't stop. Kaiden tried to focus on his laptop, replying to emails, but Lucas walked out of the shower in nothing but a towel, his hair wet and curling slightly at the ends, water still dripping down the curve of his back. Kaiden dropped his pen. "Problem?" Lucas asked, towel riding dangerously low. Kaiden forced himself to look away. "You're a menace. I've been called worse." He approached slowly, then knelt behind Kaiden on the couch and gently reached forward. Kaiden stilled. Lucas's fingers brushed through his curls, slow and deliberate. "Your hair's softer than I thought," he murmured. Kaiden's throat went dry. "Thought about it a lot, huh?" "All the time." Kaiden turned slightly, breath catching. Lucas was so close. His lips were a breath away. His hand slid down to Kaiden's jaw, cupping it, thumb brushing across his cheek. "You drive me insane," Lucas whispered, "and I like it." Then he kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was heat and hunger and months of tension snapping all at once. Kaiden gasped into his mouth, clutching Lucas's robe as their mouths moved together, all teeth and tongue and suppressed longing. Lucas pressed him back into the couch cushions, one hand braced on the armrest, the other tangled in Kaiden's curls. Kaiden whimpered, when Lucas bit his bottom lip. But just as suddenly, Kaiden broke away, panting. "No," he said, pushing against Lucas's chest. "Wait, stop." Lucas froze instantly, pulling back with his hands raised. "I'm sorry," Kaiden whispered. "I can't, not like this." Lucas's voice was tight. "Did I hurt you?" "No, it's not that. Kaiden looked away, eyes burning. "I don't want to be a rebound. I need to be wanted for me, not because I'm convenient or broken or—" Lucas went still. Then he reached for Kaiden's hand and held it gently. "I've wanted you," he said slowly, "since the day you cried in my office." Kaiden's eyes snapped to his. "You didn't even know me then." "I didn't need to," Lucas said, voice low. "I saw you fall apart with dignity, and I knew that was worth protecting." Kaiden swallowed hard, throat tight. He pulled his hand away, stood, and began pacing. "You don't get it. I was always second choice. Always. With Milo, with friends, even with my family. I was easy to leave, easy to forget." He turned, eyes shining. "I don't want to be someone you flirt with out of boredom. I want to be the reason you stay." Lucas rose, crossed the room, and wrapped his arms around him from behind. Kaiden let him. Lucas pressed a kiss to the back of his neck, slow and reverent. "You're not second choice to me," he murmured. "You never were." Kaiden exhaled shakily. He turned in Lucas's arms, rested his forehead against Lucas's collarbone. "Then prove it." Lucas didn't respond with words. He guided Kaiden gently to the bed, undressed him slowly, tenderly, like he was unwrapping something sacred. Every kiss was patient. Every touch was soft. Lucas worshipped him with his mouth and hands, mapping Kaiden's skin like it held all the answers he'd ever searched for. They made love like it wasn't the first time, but like it was the first real time. No rush, no pressure. Just shared breaths, whispered names, and the quietest of moans that filled the room like music. Kaiden cried once, just a single tear, and Lucas kissed it away. Later, tangled in sheets and sweat, Lucas stroked Kaiden's side, his voice a breath against Kaiden's temple. "You okay?" Kaiden nodded, eyes closed, body warm and safe for the first time in ages. Then he whispered, "What if you break me too?" Lucas pulled him closer. "Then I'll put you back together," he said. One kiss at a time. Chapter 5. What Comes After Wanting. Kaiden stood in the middle of his new apartment, hands on his hips, hair tied up in a messy knot, and eyes narrowed like he was challenging the walls to judge him. It was small. A one-bedroom walk-up in a building that creaked when the wind hit just right. The pipes made strange noises, and the paint was chipping near the window. But it was his. Every corner, every drawer, every light bulb, he'd changed himself. He grinned at the empty living room. Independence. Freedom. Proof that he could love someone without becoming dependent on them. Lucas, predictably, hated it. "I feel like I'm dropping you off at summer camp," he muttered from the doorway, holding Kaiden's last duffel bag. "Except the bed's smaller and no one's checking your blood sugar." Kaiden turned, arms crossed. "It's been 2 hours, and you're already acting like I moved to another country. I miss you already." "You live 15 minutes away. 11 if I ignore traffic laws." Kaiden rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. Lucas stepped closer, cupped Kaiden's cheek, and kissed his forehead. "Text me if anything breaks. I'll fix it. Text me anyway." Kaiden kissed him on the lips this time, slow, certain, sweet. "Go home, Val." Lucas groaned dramatically. "You're lucky I'm obsessed with you." "I am," He didn't say it lightly. Lucas lingered for one more long look, then left. 15 minutes later, Kaiden's phone buzzed. "Don't forget I'm addicted to your face. I will be requesting visitation rights for your mouth later." Kaiden snorted. He texted back, "Request denied." The reply came immediately. "You'll regret that, in the bedroom," repeatedly. Kaiden flushed. He locked his phone, then smiled like an idiot. Dating Lucas Vale was a whirlwind. In the span of 2 weeks, Lucas took him to a rooftop dinner catered by a Michelin star chef. 2. A helicopter tour of the city. 3. A private yacht brunch where the table floated. Kaiden retaliated with 1. A greasy 24-hour diner where the waitress called them baby boys and gave them free pie. 2. A movie night at a rundown theater where the popcorn came in plastic bags. 3. A community park where they fed ducks and accidentally got chased by a goose. Lucas pretended to complain. But Kaiden saw the truth every time Lucas laughed so hard he couldn't breathe. Then came the night Kaiden met Isolde Vale, Lucas's older sister, a federal judge, and terrifying. She opened the door to her brownstone in a silk robe, reading glasses perched on her nose and a martini in one hand. "So this is the boy who's turned my brother into a simpering mess," she said, eyeing Kaiden like he might be edible or dangerous. Kaiden offered a polite smile. "Hi. I brought brownies? You're already better than his last 3 flings." "Judge Vale," Lucas warned. She waved him off. "Relax, baby brother. I'm just doing my civic duty." Dinner was a mess of sarcasm and subtle affection. Kaiden learned 3 things. 1. Isolde was terrifyingly brilliant. 2. She adored Lucas, even when she called him names. 3. She adored Kaiden even more when he corrected Lucas's grammar mid-story. When they left, she hugged Kaiden tight and whispered, "Don't break him. He acts tough, but he's been broken before." Kaiden whispered back, "I won't." 2 days later, Kaiden came over to surprise Lucas. He let himself in. Lucas had given him a key with a note that said, "Not symbolic, just necessary." Okay, maybe a little symbolic. He wandered toward the living room and froze. Lucas, in plaid pajama pants, hair a mess, holding a mug of coffee, dancing. To Taylor Swift, he spun dramatically, lip-syncing and doing something between a body roll and a dad move. Kaiden covered his mouth to hold in a laugh. Lucas turned and froze. They stared at each other in silence. Kaiden raised an eyebrow. Lucas said, "I can kill you and no one would find the body. You dance in pajamas. I blackmail politicians. You have Spotify playlists labeled sad boy vibes." Lucas lunged for him. Kaiden shrieked and fled, laughing the whole way. By the next week, Kaiden had launched his online baking shop, Crumbs and Chaos. He refused to take Lucas's money, but let him help with marketing and connections. Orders rolled in fast. He started sleeping less, smiling more. He was building something. His. Then the message came, from Milo. "I've been thinking about you. Can we talk?" Kaiden stared at it for 5 minutes, then he deleted it. But Lucas found out. He was in the kitchen, slicing lemons for tea, when he saw Kaiden's face. The tension, the hesitation. Kaiden told him everything. Lucas said nothing. Then calmly he set the knife down and punched the backsplash mirror. Glass cracked. His knuckles bled. Kaiden shouted, "What are you doing?" "He doesn't get to haunt you," Lucas said, voice shaking. "You don't owe him closure. You don't owe him anything." Kaiden took Lucas's hands, carefully cleaning the blood, tears stinging his own eyes. "I need to do this," he whispered. "Not for him, for me." Lucas clenched his jaw, but nodded. The cafe was small, neutral territory. Milo looked older, tired, but his smile was the same, too practiced, too late. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he said. "I messed up. I should have fought for you." Kaiden sipped his tea. "I'm happy now," he said. "Not because I forgot what you did, but because I remembered who I was." Milo blinked. "You're seeing someone?" Kaiden nodded. "Someone who never made me feel replaceable." Milo looked away. Kaiden stood. "No more texts. No more visits. This chapter's closed." And he walked out. Lucas was waiting outside, leaning against his car. Hands clenched. Eyes locked on the door. When Kaiden stepped into view, Lucas exhaled. Kaiden walked straight to him. Lucas opened his mouth to speak, but Kaiden grabbed him by the collar and kissed him hard. Desperate. Sure. Theirs. They didn't speak until they were back in Lucas's apartment, pressed against the wall, breathless and shaking. Kaiden whispered, "Don't ever ask me to let you go." Lucas lifted him up, carried him to the bed like he weighed nothing, and laid him down gently. I couldn't, he said. They made love again that night, this time with no confusion, no fear, just wanting and belonging. Chapter 6. The Man I Never Saw Coming. The rooftop garden of Lucas Vale's penthouse looked like something out of a dream. String lights draped from the steel beams like glowing vines, casting soft gold across the polished stone floor. Planters of lavender, succulents, and miniature olive trees lined the perimeter, their leaves fluttering gently in the evening breeze. A live quartet played jazz somewhere in the background, subtle and perfect. Tables were filled with sweets, savory bites, and wine that cost more than Kaiden's first car. It had been exactly 1 year since Crumbs and Chaos launched, and Kaiden Rivera, former assistant, former Heartbreak, now CEO of his own growing empire, was radiant. His dark curls were swept back with careless elegance, his navy button-up rolled to his elbows, flour still ghosting the hem of his pants because he refused to let anyone else plate the desserts. He moved between guests with a bright smile, hugging Sophie, teasing Mr. Huang, and refilling Danny's glass despite her insistence that she could do it herself. I'm not old. Lucas stood at a distance, arms crossed, watching him. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in a week and wouldn't trade it for the world. He was in black slacks, sleeves rolled, shirt open at the collar. His storm-gray eyes didn't stray once. Sophie leaned in beside him. You look like a Victorian ghost who got dumped by a poet. I'm in love, Lucas replied flatly. Sophie sipped her drink. Disgusting. Danny tapped her glass with a spoon. Attention, you beautiful capitalist sellouts. Laughter rose from the crowd. Kaiden blinked from across the table. Danny, no. Shut up, it's my turn. She stepped forward, one heel slightly higher than the other, her glittering blazer catching every drop of light. 1 year ago, this idiot, she pointed at Kaiden, had nothing but a whisk, a heartbreak, and a ridiculously supportive billionaire. More laughter. Kaiden hid behind his hand. Now, he's the founder of one of the most charming, delicious, and heartwarming baking brands in the city. And more importantly, he's happy. Finally. Danny raised her glass. To Kaiden, may your cookies stay chewy, your enemies stay jealous, and your man stay wrapped around your little finger. Everyone toasted. Mr. Huang sniffled into his wine. Sophie muttered, I knew I should have bought tissues. Kaiden laughed through a soft mist of tears. I hate all of you. Lucas stepped forward just as the applause quieted. He held a small, wrapped box. Kaiden raised an eyebrow. You got me a present? Lucas offered it without a word. Inside was a silver key on a velvet string. Kaiden stared. Lucas's voice was soft. To everything. The penthouse, the car, the office, the future. He met Kaiden's eyes. But mostly, to me. The crowd was silent. Then someone flushed red. He reached under the dessert table and pulled out a small brown box, tied with twine and a tag written in bold Sharpie, property of Lucas Vale only. Touch and die. Lucas took it with a grin and opened it. Inside, chocolate raspberry bars, still warm with LV piped in white chocolate. His favorite. Kaiden looked up through his lashes. You're mine too. The rest of the party blurred into music. Soft lights and good food. By the time the last guest wandered off and Mr. Huang had taken Danny home, grumbling about suspicious tequila shots, Kaiden was barefoot, carrying his shoes in one hand and leaning against the railing as the city glittered below. Lucas came up behind him and wrapped his arms around his waist. Your sister left me a voicemail, Kaiden murmured. She said if I ever make you cry, she'll destroy my credit score. She means it. Kaiden leaned back against him. You okay? Lucas kissed his temple. I was just thinking. Dangerous. I used to think love made you weak. Kaiden turned slightly, resting his head on Lucas's shoulder. I thought wanting someone too much meant you'd lose yourself, Lucas continued. But then you happened, and suddenly I wanted to be someone worth loving. Kaiden reached up, cupping Lucas's jaw. Hey, he whispered. You are. They danced under the string lights. No music left, but the sound of their breathing and the hum of a city that no longer scared either of them. Kaiden pulled him closer. Come inside. Lucas kissed his throat. I thought you'd never ask. The penthouse was quiet, glowing with the last warmth of the party. Kaiden led him to the bedroom, unbuttoning his shirt with slow fingers. Lucas followed, pressing kisses down Kaiden's neck, his hands reverent, touch memorizing every part of him like a vow. They fell into bed together, not in urgency but in rhythm. Familiar now, Safe. Still burning with heat, but deeper now. More. Clothes scattered. Breaths caught. Kaiden gasped as Lucas rolled them over, kissed down his chest, then up again, until their mouths met in a slow, open-mouthed kiss that tasted like champagne and promises. "I love you," Kaiden said between kisses, voice trembling. "I know," Lucas whispered. "I'm never letting you go." They made love, slow, intense, possessive in all the softest ways, fingers threaded together, whispers shared in the dark. Kaiden arched into Lucas's touch, moaning his name like it meant home. Later, tangled in silk sheets, their chests rising together, Kaiden touched Lucas's face. "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying." Lucas leaned down and kissed the corner of his mouth. "You never had to ask." Kaiden closed his eyes and whispered, "He didn't save me with flowers or words. He saved me by never leaving, by choosing me again and again."